Hey guys, welcome back to Calgary Barbell. Today we're going to talk about CPU Nationals. Now for those of you who maybe haven't followed along or are just tuning into the channel, welcome. And for a bit of a background, I competed at CPU Nationals equipped in the 105 category last week here. So the week of the meet, for those of you who have been following along, took my openers on the Monday and they all moved just mint, just absolutely perfect. 342 kilos on the squat, 225 kilos on the bench, and 360 kilos on the deadlift. Now, those moving so well, I think gave me a lot of confidence heading into the meet. So meet day was Friday, and I ended up coaching, it would have been Thursday morning and Friday morning. So it made it easy to make weight, for sure. And, you know, perhaps I would have performed a little bit better, felt a little bit sharper had I not coached those days. But to be honest, I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm invested in my athletes. I was very happy to be a part of what everybody did at Nationals in terms of the athletes I was coaching. So even if it did negatively affect or impact my performance, I'm not too worried about it. I'm not too stressed about it. And that's a trade-off that I'm willing to make. So we started the day off making weight. I was 103.89, so lost a little bit more than I probably should have. I tend to err on the side of caution with cuts, and that usually results in me losing maybe a little bit too much. So the goal for Worlds will be to come in a little bit closer to the mark, maybe up in the 104s somewhere. Before I took my opening attempt, I wrapped my knees probably 5 or 6 lifters out. I was just antsy and anxious, and you know, my last 2 competitions prior to this one were raw again, so I didn't really think too much about wrap timing, and that really messed me up. Between that and the platform having a little bit of give to it, I actually had to lower my rack height for my next 2 attempts. One lower than what I would normally take on the Alico bar that I train on regularly, so that was a bit of a, it threw me off a little bit. And because I had wrapped my knees so much earlier, I was sitting in the back room and like, no, I'm not gonna worry about it too much. I'll just wait it out. You know, I'm not gonna go numb. I'm not gonna worry about it, and I don't want to have to use another wrap, undo it, re-roll, and then re-wrap everything. So I didn't. I just left it on, and lo and behold, about 1 minute before they called my name up to the platform, my entire lower leg started to go numb on both sides. So I went out to unrack the bar with my legs mostly numb from the knee down. Failed on unracking the bar the first time. I could barely get it over the J-hooks. Got it out, fell back into the rack with it. Had to take a second, collect myself, unrack it again. Very shakily got it out of the rack and where I needed to. And then realized that because my legs were numb, I couldn't set my stance the way I wanted to, or the width that I wanted to. So I just kind of at that point was like, well, all right, I guess we're squatting here. So I did. Had to go very, very slow on the way up because lo and behold, some of the muscles of the lower limb come in pretty handy when it comes to balancing a heavy bar on your back. So I had to be very careful about how I locked out, and by the time I got the rack command, I was almost about to fall into the rack again. So I missed depth on that first one. It was 2-1. Side judges nailed me for depth, which, you know, they were very strict on depth. Stricter than I had trained to, for sure. So I really had to bury my squats that day, but you know, the judging was consistent at least. So I knew what I had, and I knew what everybody was getting called. It was the same across the board, so I'm thankful for that. So instead of taking my planned like 25 kilo, 20 kilo jump to my second attempt, I ended up taking 7.5. Because I didn't know, okay, am I weak today? Like, what's going on? I don't know if it was all because of wrapping too early. Like, will I go out and crush 350, or will I just get dummied by it? So I took a much smaller jump than planned, took 350 for my second, and it was a rocket. I was able to put it to depth, and it felt just like it should have. So after taking my second, I knew that I was kind of back on track and took a very big jump up to 367.5 for my third attempt. So that's 5 kilos shy of a PR. I had hoped for about 380 that day, but given how that first attempt went, it just it wasn't in the cards. So I ended up with 367.5, and that was a good third attempt. It got a little sticky out of the bottom because of the additional depth that I had to attain, and that will be something that I'll be incorporating into my equips training as I move forward, just squatting a little deeper. Bench went really well. My shoulders are still really beat up from it. I had a lot of pain after benching. I didn't bench very well. Now, I was strong on the day. I was able to hit the numbers that I had planned. I jumped, so I started at 225, completely misgrooved it off the chest. It stopped for half a second and locked out. I almost thought I was gonna get called for up and down, but didn't, thankfully. Jumped up to 235, and that was a little bit smoother. And then from there, jumped to 245, which is a 15 kilo meet PR. Again, I didn't execute very well, but I was strong enough to do it. So, you know, take that with a grain of salt. Again, I think that a more aggressive taper, doing more work during my taper would have been productive, but hindsight's 20/20, right? So I finished the day with a 245 bench and then moved into deadlifts. Now deadlifts were, you know, after how squats went, I was a little bit nervous about deadlifts. Everything moved the way it should in the warm-up room, so I went out and I opened with 360, and that moved really well. I was standing in a bit of a divot, so I was having a hard time not losing the bar forward. If you look closely, you can see that I'm struggling for balance. By the end of the championships like that, the platform tends to get pretty beat up, so it behooves the lifter to find a spot where you're not standing in divots, which I was able to do for my second 2 attempts, and those were fine, no balance issues there. So my second attempt was 380, and it flew. It was a rocket. It went exactly as I had planned, so I took an additional 20 kilos, and I loaded 400, and took a pretty good swing at it. It moved off the floor, it boogied most of the way up, and I lost it maybe an inch or two from lockout. Just couldn't get my back through. Now, when I pull max lifts, I do depend a little bit on a little bit of spinal flexion, and then being able to straighten that out at the top and extend through, get the shoulders and the low back push through once I get to lockout. And I wasn't able to do it. It moved really well until it didn't. You know, some people were like, oh, you know, what went wrong? What happened? It was just the lockout. It was this, you were very close. And the long story short is I just wasn't strong enough for it that day. I was very close. I'm really happy that I loaded it. I think I would regret not loading it. I would love to go back to making my third deadlift attempts. It's been a minute. It's been a couple of meets of not making third deadlift attempts. So I'd like to change that in the future. But I think that, you know, by the time Worlds rolls around, 400, maybe even a little bit more, is going to be there. So I'm really excited. And in a way, I'm glad that I missed that. You know, it's kind of about more than like making the weight or not, and missing that really kind of keeps that fire burning. You know, it keeps me hungry. I think if I hit 400, it's like, oh, well, what do I do next? I guess 410. But missing that 400, I'm especially hungry and excited to get back to deadlifting, to get back to working towards a nice big total at Worlds. So I finished the day with 992.5 kilos, and that was a 2.5 kilo total PR. A little bit shy on the squat, a little bit shy on the deadlift, but a 15 kilo bench PR. So hopefully at Worlds I can put all three together and have a great day. I think that if I can do that, I have a shot at, you know, climbing up from my previous best 9th place finish at Open Worlds. I think I can best that this year, and I'm really excited to get ready for Dubai. So I will be taking a seat on the Canadian team to represent our country, the CPU, at the IPF Open World Championships in Dubai in November, and I'm extremely excited about that. So thanks everybody who tuned in along the way, for all the support, the well wishes, the kind words. There was a lot of hype on the live stream. I'm assuming a lot of you guys tuned in and watched, so thank you for that. And there's definitely more to come. So leave a like if you liked it, hit that subscribe button, and we will see you guys in the next video. Take care.